Hi everybody, it's me, Carrie Beglow with MemoryINKers.com. Today we are going to talk about this awesome stamp set, Charming Cafe. It's new in the 2018 Occasions catalog, and you will be charmed by this fabulous stamp set and the bundle with the matching framelit dies. I'm just going to quickly go through basically what the framelits will do for you. There are several little pieces. This one will cut out the outside of this wonderful shape here, which would make a great tag or just a front with a sentiment in the side. And then this piece will cut out the insides of that so you can have a hole, which we will be doing later today on this video. You get 3 of the little dies that will cut out this little topiary, which is really wonderful because the odds are you're going to have at least 2 or 3 on your project. This piece will cut out these little bistro set so that if you wanted to do like a window here, this would be the window, or a shaker card or something along those lines, and it would cut out that way. While this one, let's see if I can get it off. Whoop. This one will cut out the entire bistro set, so you could pop it up or whatever it is you wanted to do. These right here, these will cut out these little flower shapes individually. So let's say you wanted to do an awesome design, but you just wanted the flowers, or you wanted the flowers to pop up off of a frame that you've created with these 2 dies. So, and there's 2, so you can cut them both at one time, which is pretty awesome. So again, it's the Charming Cafe, and it will be available in the 2018 Occasions catalog. And don't forget, Celebration will be going on January, February, and March. So this is a great set to help you earn your celebration points. Okay, so now I am going to show you a couple of cards that I made with that set. All of the details for these cards will be on my blog at MemoryINKers.com, but I'm going to go through one of them with you. This one is actually a little bit more of a simple card, and when I say simple, it's because it really was quite easy with using the framelits. It uses Lemon Lime Twist, Tutti Frutti DSP, and then Lemon Lime Twist again. And then on the inside is Whisper White. All of these things were colored with our watercolored pencils. And then I did 3 little topiaries, which are popped up with Stampin' Dimensionals. Now, the one little tip I have for you is here. When you stamp this, you're going to want to make sure that your stamp is inside your oval. So I just, after I cut it, which we're going to talk about how you get this to cut nice in just a minute, but I just traced it onto the Whisper White before I stamped, really lightly in pencil so that it would be easy to erase. And then I knew where to stamp. And the little chairs, I stamped them first. I stamped the little bistro set, and then I did one on some Post-it note, and I matted it like that, and then stamped the window so that it created the chairs in front of the window, which is something I know many of you know how to do, but I am working on some beginner videos, so watch for those in the future. Anyway, this is the first one, and then of course the ombre ribbon and Lemon Lime Twist for this card. Now the one we're going to go over is kind of a stepped up version of the same card. This one has slightly different paper, but it is still from the Tutti Frutti set, and it uses the powder pink for the background. Also, you will notice that this one is a tri-fold, so you get a lot of dimension with this. I am going to sit down while I go through this because it's a lot. All right, so also a couple of things I want you to notice is that the topiaries on the inside and the window awning is popped up, and I'm going to show you how to do those. So here's what you're going to need for this. Okay, here is what you're going to need. you will need your Simply Scored tool, a piece of cardstock cut at 5.5 by 9 3/8 and 5.5 by 1 1/4 inch. You will need a piece of DSP. This is from the 6x6 paper, and you will cut that, which I've already done, to 4 by 5 1/4. 2 pieces of Whisper White cardstock. One can be a scrap, the other is going to be for the inside, so it needs to be 4 1/4 by 4 inches by 5 1/4. You will need a piece of Designer Series paper. This is optional, but this is how I made the bottom piece here. Okay, and that needs to be 4 1/4 inches wide. It's longer on purpose, and you'll see why in a minute. A piece of window sheet that is cut 4 inches and a little bit longer, so that you, and I found that by accident. Your Memento ink pad, some ribbon. This happens to be the Crushed Curry satin stitched ribbon, fast fuse, mini Stampin' dimensionals, paper snips. I used tweezers, they're not mandatory, fast fuse or snail, and a variety of the blends markers. So my recommendation on blends is just get them all, especially during celebration when you're going to want them all anyway. So that is everything you need to get started. So hold on and we'll start making this card. Okay, we're going to start with our 5 by 5 by 9 3/4 inch piece of cardstock, and you're going to score it so that you get the folds. So in your score tool, I have these marked. You're going to do it at 4 1/4, which is your typical card width, 4 1/2, then again at 8.75. Whoops. Hold your card in place. It's always a good idea. And then you're going to move over just 1/8 of an inch. So one more doohickey-bobber, whatever you want to call those. So those are your scores for that piece. And then on the 5 1/2 by 1 1/2, you want to score at 1/2 an inch and then 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so those are your pieces. Okay, so I think this is the very first time I did a really fancy card on a video. I'm not 100% sure, but these are your scored pieces. So you know that your scores are pressed in like a valley when you make them. So you're going to flip your card over and you're going to fold over, and I forgot to mention you will need your bone folder for this tool, so make sure you have one. I've been inking, so I do have ink all over my fingers and probably pretty much everywhere. Okay, now this is where it's a little bit tricky because these score lines are so close together that I like to start it and then get it even Steven and gently get it to where it needs to go and then use my score. So now I have that first box type fold. These are going to be even more difficult because they're even closer together. Now, this one, when I was doing it, is the one I had the most trouble with because I'm hoping I'm in camera because I'm sitting down now. I can't really see. Okay, so again, you're going to line it up and kind of press it carefully to where it's supposed to go, trying to keep it even, and then press it down. Okay, so now you have a smaller box fold. Okay, so there's your card base. Now you're going to take your designer series paper and your fast fuse. By the way, this is called tear and tape. I noticed I called it fast fuse. Hey, you know, it's been one of those weeks. So you're going to take your designer series paper, and you can use temporary adhesive if you want to, but I like to have it pretty secure so it doesn't move too much. And I'm just doing one side because I'm going to be adding ribbon, and I need to be able to lift it up. So I'm going to set that onto the card. Perfection is overrated, but I kind of try to be a little more, oh, that's bad. Let's see if I can get it to come off, because that is fast fuse. If you go very slowly, my husband tells me, and he's in the art field, or was, that adhesive wants to let go if you just don't fight it. So keep that in mind when it's fresh anyway. Okay, so geez, Gary. Okay, so now you've got that where you want it. Then what you would do is on your scrap piece, one of your scrap pieces of Whisper White, you would stamp this design, which is this one right here. And then I colored it with blender pen, or the blends now, and then cut it out. All right. Now you're going to see this truly is a scrap. I made a mistake years ago when I made my daughter's wedding invitations, and I'm still using some of the scraps from those. Hey, you know, she was happy with them, and that's all that mattered. So now I need to look at my card design so I remember where I'm going with this. So I had this sort of right in the middle. Okay. So now that is stuck. Everything is stuck. And this is stuck only on one side. All right. Now we're going to get our big shot. I don't know if your big shot looks like my big shot, but my plates are well loved. And I don't get rid of them until they literally fall apart. So this is with using the magnetic plate. So you're going to set that onto your big shot. You're going to take the inner piece and line that up. And it lines up so beautifully. Let's hope it does on the video, because you know how that goes. Then I'm going to slide that plate in and run it through. Now normally I don't like to run back and forth, but because this is going through two pieces of cardstock and designer series paper, I ran it back and forth and then back again. And that should be enough to, yep, pop out your pieces. So then you get that nice open fold there. Okay, let me move the big shot out of the way. Here's another tip, by the way. I mark one of my plates as my top plate. Then, although I've been using it for quite a while and it is kind of a mess, it's not as messy as this one. And then when this one gets ridiculous, this becomes my bottom piece. So that's just a little tip for you. Okay, so put these framelits away so I don't lose them. Now we have that set, and I want to put on my ribbon, which I have pre-cut. And I'm just going to put a little fast fuse on the back of the ribbon. And I want it kind of in the center. I'm working upside down right now. This actually came about because when I made my original one, I ended up with some schmutz, and I had to hide it. So what better way to hide schmutz than a ribbon? Now for the bow, I like to make sure my bow doesn't come untied. So I'm going to take a piece of fast fuse, and when I find the end of it, I will. There it is. That isn't it. There it is. And I am going to put it across from where my other ribbon is. Sometimes I put it right onto the bow itself, but this way when I put it down, it's kind of holding not only just the bow, but it's holding down some of the tied pieces too to keep it from slipping off. So there is my front. Okay, now you will take your piece of acetate, which the window sheet, which is under here. It just got the white piece on there. And what I did the first time was I made this little design. So I'm going to slide this on there, if it will let me. And it kind of gives me the idea of where it is. So all right. So now you can see why it's a longer piece, because I'm going to want to fit it in there when it's time to fit it in there. Then I should have had these mounted. That would have been a lot easier, right? Then I am going to use the Memento ink. Actually, I'm going to use Stampin, which I know I don't sell it anymore, but you know you can find it. And I just really like it for this kind of thing. But this gives me an idea that this will go where I want it to go. Excuse me. I always cough on videos. Oops. Stampin is very sticky, as you know. Okay. So now that I have that where I want it, I am going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to turn the card upside down. And I know that I want this to be about right there through the hole, if you guys can see that. So I am going to take my awesome green paper that I have here, and I'm just going to, because it is trimmed at 4 1/4 the way I want it, I'm going to line it up with the edge of the brick here and try to make it even Steven with the card. Okay. So then I am going to take my pencil, or a marker in this case. Okay, sorry about that. My recording turned off. I don't know why. But basically what I was telling you was that I took this piece and I lined it up and marked it, and then I trimmed it down. And you can see I trimmed it considerably, because what we're going to do now is we are going to take some fast fuse. I'm sorry, I keep calling this fast fuse. It is actually called sticky strip, and I know that. And I am going to put it along the edge of this shorter flap that we created when we did the scoring. Oops. And then you rub it really good. I want this to be fairly even. Well, actually, I want it to be perfect, but that's not necessarily a thing in my world. So I just tapped it, and then I'm going to have a little bit of extra schmutz, which needs to get cleaned off. I will do that after, so that you guys don't have to watch me do that. But if you wanted to, you could cut your fast fuse, your tear and tape thinner, which I have been known to do. Then what you're going to do with that other piece, this one that you scored, you're going to go. Okay, correction time. This piece that you've cut to 1 1/4 by 5 1/2, you're actually going to score it 1/2 inch and then 5/8 of an inch. And then you are going to put some fast fuse on the fatter side. Okay. It's one of my skinny pieces I told you about. Sticky, this is Terran tape. Hello people. How long have I been selling Stampin' Up? Oh, only 17 years. It's like very sad. Now I'm going to take this second fold, make sure it's pretty strong, and then I'm doing this upside down, so I hope you guys are following what I'm doing. I am placing this right at, whoops, luckily it doesn't stick too bad to the window sheet, although it definitely wants to. This is so hard to do on camera and so easy when I'm home alone and just doing my thing. There we go. So now you can see it kind of borders, okay? And I want it to pop up, so I am going to put mini foam dots in here. So rather than open a new one, this is what I like to do. I know that we have the long strips, but they're fatter than the mini glue dots, and I didn't want them to be that fat. And this is one from probably a paper pumpkin kit or something. So I'm taking that and I'm lining the edge. Can you guys figure out where this is coming from? This is, like I said, this is from a kit. I just snipped, and then I'm using this end. And it's going to be a little bit too long, so snip it off. And then when I fold it over, it gives this piece some dimension. Okay? Now, when you first do this, your card's you're going to want to do that. So you just play with the folds and stuff, and it'll start to lay right once you're all done. So, and yes, I see that that's slightly off center, but you know, my life is off center, so it works for me. Then you will stamp the inside of your card. And I did this basically the same way that I did the chairs. I set that down, and then I lightly penciled where this was, and then I knew I wanted that to be where it's at. And then I colored it with our Stampin' blends. Now, the other thing that I did was I stamped an extra piece of the awning because I want the awning to pop up. And then I put a half a piece of Terran tape. Now I am going to use a little ruler. So if you have a metal ruler, these work really well for this. And you can do it on your score pal, but just for essence of time. Okay, so I got that, and this one I want it to be as flat as I can. And then, because that's going to lay flat, then I'm going to do the same thing with those little awnings. It's actually easier this way. And these, I don't want them to be super flat. I just want them folded over. So I'm going to score it by doing that. Okay, does that make sense? Now, I took half pieces, or you can do a, oops. You can cut either half. I know that these are really small already, but I wanted it to be super duper tiny. So I want the awning to stick up just a little bit, like I showed you in my sample. So I'm going to put that close to where those little awnings are. Oops. See, my husband's trick does work. You can move stuff. And then I'm going to take these off and then take off my sticky strip. And I don't know if you guys can see, I'll show you in a minute. I actually went over the edge with the yellow so that when I was coloring, so that it wouldn't show too much. And then I am going to line this up so that it hides the awning at the bottom. And I'm not worried. Sorry about my head if it's in the frame. Okay, there. So you can see how now you have the awning popping up. And then some fast fuse. Yes, I do make mistakes, so you'll notice the back side is inked. But with Stampin' Up, we do sell two-sided cardstock, so I know, old joke, but it's still funny sometimes. Then I'm going to center this into the center of the card. Okay, so now you can see we've got some dimension. And then I stamped 4 of the little topiaries. I don't know why I'm trying to call it an area. The little topiaries, and 2 of them are on half of a mini Stampin' Dimensional, and this is where my tweezers came in. And I'm going to do this upside down, so because I need to be able to see what I'm doing here. So I apologize, but this is how I did it anyway. I wanted them to be popped up on the inside, but right at, hoping you guys can see that, right at the edge of the floor when the card is closed. So there's one. And then do the same thing on this side of the chairs. And because mine aren't centered, it's not going to be perfect, but don't forget what I said about perfection. It's really overrated. And, you know, let's just pretend that the wind blew the bistro chairs, or some lazy people moved them or something. So now we have the bistro, or the topiaries behind the bistro set. And then I'm going to take some fast fuse and just adhere these little ones so that they look like they're sticking out farther. And these are not with dimensionals, these are just with the fast fuse. Okay, now the only other thing that I did that I'm not going to do on this video because it'll be like watching paint dry, is I stamped again the little bistro set and I colored them in, and you can see I really over colored around the edges because then I cut them out. Yes, like a crazy woman, I cut them out. You could probably also color them from the back with like on this side with like a Sharpie or something, but if you look at my original design, you can see that I do have color in my furniture. I also went crazy and trimmed out the legs. You can do that too. But, you know, these are the kind of cards you send to somebody you really want to impress. So anyway, you don't have to do that. And like I said, you could even do it in white and do the whole, you know, cut it out and do the whole bistro set in white and color it. That would work too. Okay, so anyway, that is my fun card today. I hope you guys liked it. It was my first time doing kind of a difficult card on a video, so please let me know if you like what I'm doing, and hopefully you will press that little button in the corner at the bottom down there and you will subscribe to my YouTube channel. That would be awesome. All of the measurements and templates will be on a blog post at MemoryINKers.com. I don't have the exact date yet, though it will be in January because the stamp set's not available till then. So probably the first Saturday in January. You can look for that. Okay. Have a fabulous day.